When you hear the name Borderlands, what do you think of? For a lot of people, it's Borderlands 2, the bigger, flashier, and more refined sequel. And for others, it might be Borderlands 3, the game with more polish and a bigger open world vibe. But today, I want to tell you that Borderlands 1 deserves just as much respect as those sequels. When Borderlands 1 came out in 2009, it was a strange experiment. It was a mashup of a first person shooter that had Diablo style loot. And sure, it was rough around the edges. The story was super thin, mostly being text on a screen after you turned in the missions, and the UI was super clunky, and plus, it didn't have the polish that the later games boasted. But that's what makes it special. It didn't really rely on flash, it just relied on substance. But what I want to do today is I want to sit down and talk about why, even though it's been 17 years, Borderlands 1 is just as great as ever. And there's no better place to start than the story. Which, as I said, Borderlands 1 does have a very bare bones story, so there's not going to be much to go over here, but I'll try my best. So it's pretty simple. You start out as one of 4 Vault Hunters arriving on Pandora, chasing the legend of the Vault, a hidden alien cache rumored to hold insane power, technology, wealth, and loot. At first, you're basically just doing odd jobs, helping people out like Dr. Zed, taking bounties, clearing out bandits, just trying to make a name for yourself while following any lead that might point you towards the Vault. But as you keep going, you're guided by this mysterious voice in your head, later revealed to be Angel, who's quietly pushing you in the right direction the whole time. And piece by piece, you start uncovering what the Vault actually is and who else is after it. And that's where the Atlas Corporation comes in. They're led by Commandant Steele, who is a siren, one of the most powerful beings in the Borderlands universe. There's only 6 at a time. In this game, we were introduced to 3 sirens. 4 if you want to include Tannis, but she wasn't revealed to be a siren until 10 years later, so I'm not counting her. So outside of Tannis, we were introduced to Lilith, Angel, and Commandant Steele. What makes the sirens so powerful is they get their own abilities. Like you'll see Lilith has phase walk, Angel has phase shift, and Commandant Steele has phase bullshit. We don't get to see anything out of her. We just see her tattoos, and we know she's a siren. But anyway, enough with the siren talk. After you're done getting the 3 vault key fragments, you unlock the path forward and get closer and closer to the vault before Atlas can reach it first. And then eventually, you finally do. But instead of treasure, you find out the truth. The vault isn't a reward. You're not getting a bunch of loot. You're getting a prison. You're getting the Destroyer, a massive alien entity that you're forced to take down. So, in a very, very summarized way, that is Borderlands 1's story. It's not trying to be some deep, character-driven narrative. It's simple, mysterious, and gives you just enough motivation to keep pushing forward. Because at the end of the day, that's not what Borderlands 1's about. It's about the journey of getting there. It's about the guns. And you can't bring up a Borderlands game without talking about the guns, and Borderlands 1 might have the best guns in the series. In this game, they look the most realistic, they sound the best and the meanest, and there's just a feeling to them that feels more aggressive and better than guns in the later games. Admittedly, it is certainly aided by the fact that this game does not hold back on the gore. Like if you shoot an enemy in the head with a sniper rifle, their head is just gonna explode. And the future games are also censored down that none of the guns in them just feel damaging. In this game, you see an enemy explode when you shoot them with a sniper rifle. You see them corrode away when you shoot them with corrosion. Shit, you see their head and brain explode when you shock them to death. And that just helps this game stand out, is the guns feel so much more damaging than anything else. And admittedly, my next point you can use when talking about any game in the Borderlands series, but what makes it stand out from other games in the genre is the guns in this game all feel different due to the manufacturer gimmicks, like Tediore in this game being just a cheap, easy, reliable, fast reload, Atlas trying to be more expensive, the power of your gods in your hand, as they say. The guns just feel different from each other. And it also helps when each character in this game excels in a certain category of weapon. Roland is your AR shotgun guy, Lilith SMGs and snipers, Mordecai pistols and snipers, and Brick is just kind of anything explosive and shotguns. And it's not really the guns But the loot system in this game as well at least teeters to the way I play and allows me to enjoy this way more than any of the future games, because I feel like in the other games it gets away from a looter shooter and gets more towards farmer shooter. Because in this game, you're not going to see yourself sitting there farming the same bosses over and over each playthrough. You're going through, you're killing enemies, checking their bodies, checking every chest you walk across, really standing out for what a looter shooter should be. And you're not having the most overpowered gear at level 1 like you do in Borderlands 2 getting a Hornet off of Knuckle Dragger. You're waiting until about level 20 to get your first legendary, so it just feels that much more impactful when you finally do get one. And the other thing without having dedicated farms rule this game is you find yourself playing with a bunch of different weapons. Your variety is through the roof compared to in future games where you're farming the same bosses, as I said, over and over again. But that's not saying that there's nothing to farm in this game, because there is. At endgame, you have pearls and you have hybrids, some of the rarest weapons we've ever seen in the series, and so it's amazing to chase them. It's just where it should be. It's at the end game. You're not farming the entire playthrough. You're sitting there, you're looting and shooting, and then when you're finally done with everything, that's when the farm begins. And I think that's how it should be. And what's a game like Borderlands without something to keep you playing after the credits roll? And that's where Borderlands 1 really separates itself. The base game already gives you a reason to stick around, giving you a second playthrough, tougher enemies, better loot, but it's the DLCs that take that turn in a true endgame. And not every DLC is perfect. Mad Moxie's Underdome, I'm looking at you. But the rest, they add so much to the experience. The island of Dr. Ned brings a completely different vibe, slows it down, gives you more of an atmospheric, almost horror-inspired. Claptrap's new robot revolution leans into chaos and humor and gives you more high-level enemies to fight. But the real game changer is the secret armory of General Knox, because this is where Endgame truly begins. Honestly, they should have just called this the Endgame DLC. Beyond the extra levels, this DLC adds more missions. It gives you a reason to keep playing. It introduces pearlescent weapons, the rarest loot in the game, as I had mentioned, and suddenly you're not just playing, you're hunting. You're running the armory, opening chest after chest, hoping that one of them hits. And then there's Cromarax the Invincible. Cromarax was the first raid boss in the series. And don't get me wrong, he is incredibly difficult, but it's not an unfair type of difficult like you see in somebody like Veracitus, who just spams Novas at you until you die. Cromarax is the type of enemy that you want to make sure you know your opponent. You want to make sure you're well equipped for it, because when you know him, you know his tactics, and you're well equipped to fight him, it's the most fun fight you'll ever have. And that's the one thing that's great, is you're going to find yourself coming back to perfect this fight. Well, that is if you're not coming back to him for his loot. But that's what makes the endgame so good, is you're forced to optimize your build, refine your strategy, and you come back stronger. It's not forced on you. The game just doesn't demand that you grind hours to enjoy it. It lets you choose to keep playing. So by the time you reach this point, after the gunplay, the characters, the loot, and now the endgame, you start to realize something. Borderlands 1 didn't age well by accident. It aged well because its foundation is strong. And it's a game that was built to just be fun. In the newer games, I find myself just grinding too much, just farming over and over again, whether it's for XP like you do in pre-sequel just to get to the next story mission, or in Borderlands 2, constantly farming the same gear over and over again for to Destruct Peak. And sure, the story isn't the greatest, but it doesn't really need to be. The game is enjoyable. The guns are fun to use. Matter of fact, I find myself coming back to Borderlands 1 just because I miss how the gunplay is. And if I'm playing another Borderlands game, I find myself wanting to play Borderlands 1 because I get tired of the loot generation in the future games. And I find you can't go wrong with the end game in this game because you have so much to do. It's not just a million different raid bosses. It's you can farm different guns. You can farm Cromarax, the armory. There is so much to do, and it is probably the most enjoyable in the entire series. So yeah, I'm definitely biased, but in my opinion, that is why I think Borderlands 1 is the best game in the series. So yeah, that was definitely a fun trip down memory lane. But I will say, I want to thank anyone who's watched this far. With this being my first video, I don't imagine this is the highest quality video you've ever seen. So I appreciate you for giving me a chance and staying this long. And I will say, if there's anything that you recommend, any tips I can do to be better, or any videos that you want to see made that maybe your favorite content creator isn't doing, let me know. I can give it a shot. But with that being said, thanks again to everyone. Thank you for watching this far, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.